Good evening and welcome to the broadcast of the Enid City Commission from the Council Chambers in the Administration Building on West Garriott.
Except for Dave Van Hooser, and he is. The invocation this evening will be given by Carl Roberts with Grace Ministries. Chief Speen, would you like to lead us in the flag salute after the invocation? I want you to work tonight. Evan Roberts.
Father, we want to thank you for this opportunity to come together tonight and to conduct business for this city. And we want to pause to say thank you for your favor in Enid. Thank you how that you have blessed us over these months and weeks, and we give you praise. Father, we ask you that your wisdom would be given to the city officials as they lead this city. And Father, we stand before you this evening and we specifically ask you that you would bless us with rain. God, that you would open the heavens and that you would pour out rain upon our community, upon the surrounding area, upon the farmers and the fields. And God, we will be sure to give you praise and glory. And we ask you, secondly, God, that you would continue to watch over our community and that you would give us peace in this season. Protection, God, in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We can always pray for rain. Thank you. Item 4, consider approval of minutes of the March 13, 2015 Special Commission and the March 17, 2015 regular commission meetings.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ron. Second by Rodney. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 6-0. Under item 5, awards, presentations, proclamations, and organizational business. Item 5.1, present the pet available for adoption at the city animal shelter. Hang on.
Gene Robertson with Enid Animal Control. What I brought here tonight is about a 3 to 4 month old female Chihuahua named her Sasha. She comes up for adoption tomorrow. Anybody interested? We are open from 10 to 6 Monday through Friday, and 12 to 3 on Saturday and Sunday. If somebody out there would like to adopt her, just show up there tomorrow and show them nothing like your companion. We have a lot of animals in there that needs homes. Come on out and take a look. If you haven't been to our shelter, you need to come through and just come and take a walk through and see what it's like.
Thank you. Are there any presentations? Joe?
Yes, we have 3, Mayor.
Okay.
Mayor, Commissioners, the first one we'll do, we're very excited and pleased to have a lot of young athletes here today. In fact, they won the 5th grade YMCA state championship in basketball, and so we want to recognize them today. And Mayor, I'll go ahead and call up the coaches first. Coaches Rashad Sullivan, Chad Owens, and Zach Slater. Please come on up.
Good job.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
You may have to separate some of these guys coming up here.
Let's go ahead and get the champions up here. Trayton Owens, Jaden Ward, Jackson Ward, Ethan Reese and Brock Slater, Camden Mathis, Trenton Smith,
There you go.
Tarian Tay Sullivan.
Congratulations.
Come on up.
Congratulations. Can you slam dunk? You know, a good pair of Converse, orange tennis shoes, you'll be able to slam dunk. This guy will tell you. Good job, guys.
This is quite an accomplishment, coaches. Do you want to say a few things? Because I think you're still competing for a national championship? Or?
Yeah, we're gonna go to,
Get the mic.
okay, I'll get up
There
here.
you go.
We're gonna go to a summer national tournament and the end of July. And hopefully we come back and we're victorious whenever we play down there in July. Hopefully we'll be coming up here and letting you guys know that we've done another great job making it.
Great.
Is Jenny Wagner here? Jenny, would you come on up? I know we have a proclamation here that I'll read, Mayor, and you'll present to her. Whereas every child is entitled to be loved, cared for, nurtured, feel secure, and be free from verbal, sexual, emotional, and physical abuse and neglect. And whereas it is the responsibility of every adult who comes in contact with a child to protect that child's inalienable right to a safe and nurturing childhood. And whereas our communities are stronger when all citizens become aware of child maltreatment, prevention, and become involved in supporting parents to raise their children in a safe and nurturing environment, now therefore, I, Bill Shuey, Mayor of the City of Enid, Oklahoma, do hereby proclaim April of 2015 to be Child Abuse Prevention Month and call upon all citizens, community agencies, faith groups, medical facilities, and businesses to increase their participation in our efforts to prevent child maltreatment and strengthen the community in which we live. Witness whereof I have hereunder set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Enid to be affixed this first day of April 2015. Mayor Bill Shuey.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Jenny, do you-
Child welfare is very important to the community. It's what builds our future generations, and I appreciate people being more aware of child abuse, and I really appreciate this, and I know child advocacy does. Thanks very much.
Eugene Harrington. Is he here?
Rob is, there he is.
I have a letter of commendation for Eugene Harrington. Eugene Harrington is hereby commended for superb execution of his duties as a commercial operator for the City of Enid Solid Waste Services Department. While performing his collection routine early on the morning of 3 April 2015, a fire started in the solid waste bin of Mr. Harrington's assigned truck while he was parked at a private business. Mr. Harrington immediately discerned that high winds threatened to spread the fire to the business and surrounding private properties. Without hesitating and disregarding the risk of his own safety, Mr. Harrington re-entered his vehicle and moved it to a safe location, away from the private property and bystanders. He then contacted emergency services and provided crucial assistance in isolating and extinguishing the fire. Mr. Harrington's presence of mind, initiative, and courage helped ensure the safety of citizens and private property. His decisive actions also prevented serious damage to a critical piece of city equipment, allowing it to be placed back in service the same day. Mr. Harrington's selfless devotion to duty reflects great credit upon himself, the city of Enid, and is in the keeping of the highest standards expected of a public service. Therefore, it is with great pride I present this letter of commendation to Eugene Harrington, signed by Gerald Gilbert, our city manager.
I tell you what, firemen and the police and the 911 dispatcher, it was record time. They were there 3 to 5 minutes and they put a handle on it. So it was some craziness, but yeah. So thank you.
Well, thank you for what you did.
Thank you.
That was a good deal. Under item 6, hearings. Item 6.1, conduct a hearing regarding the fiscal year 2015 annual action plan and to consider $399,384 of proposed allocations as recommended by the Community Development Block Grant Funding Committee. Stephanie?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager. The City of Enid is an entitlement city for the receipt of Community Development Block Grant funds. Each year, I submit an annual action plan for the expenditures of these funds. This year, the amount is $399,384. The city allows outside entities to assist them with the expenditure of these funds. With drastic decreases in funding over the years, we're unable to assist all organizations. There's a list here of the funding committee and staff come together, and we recommend funding with those being priority.
We have several signed up. Do you want to take them in that order, or the order that I have that they signed in? Okay. First one on the list, Clifford Porter. Clifford?
Good evening, Mayor, Board. Just came to talk about the CDBG request funding committee's recommendations, and just wanted to kind of give you a little highlight of our organization, just a short brief, because I got somebody else that want to come talk about this. Booker T serves an after-school program 175 school days, and we serve 35 to 40 children a day. This has been going on for the last 15 or 20 years in this community, and I just have to say for the record, I love this community. This is my hometown. I love everything about it. I don't understand the folks who go off and get certain degrees and don't come back home and use it to help make our city a better place to live, but I love it. And that's why I do the work I do for the underprivileged children in this city. I'm dedicated to it, and I think all the organizations that come out and ask for monies are well-deserved. But as you know, I wouldn't want to have the committee's job, because that's a hard job to do, to give everybody their requests. But I'm strictly here by priority, and I serve people. We have an old school building, and we actually serve people. And for the last 20 years, I have looked at Booker T as a priority of this great city for the programs that we have been providing for many years. I have with me tonight folks that brought their children. They served at that center under my tutelage when I was just an aide, and now their children are enjoying and reaping the benefits of the programs that we are offering there.
And I'm just kind of confused on the recommendations as priority. We have been a priority of the city for some time now, fitting those demographic areas identified through CDBG. And I'm just asking this committee here to just reconsider the funding committee's recommendation, and I ask that they award us the $60,000 that we're asking for. We have a big overhead there at Booker T that's hard to cover when we're getting cut year after year after year. And I'm just asking this committee to just reconsider that committee's recommendation, as we have been proven in this city to provide such good programs. And I'm going to ask Sean to come up and elaborate on those numbers for me real quick.
Sean, I forgot, but we need your name and your address, please.
I'm actually signed up on there. Name is Sean Byrne. Address is 4014 Oak Crest Avenue, 73703. Just want to start off by saying that I'm not a native of Enid. I came to Enid about 17, 18 years ago, and I've had the privilege of working with most nonprofits in this community in one way, shape, or form. We have some of the strongest, most dedicated nonprofits anywhere in the state. I get to go all over the country and see how different programs are working. I can tell you that the people here in Enid are passionate about what they do. They're concerned about the people they serve, and they're dedicated to working oftentimes for next to nothing. And a lot of those nonprofits are in this room right here, and they've given their hearts and souls to the population that they serve. Booker T. Washington, I'm honored to be able to speak about them tonight. They serve actual people. The cuts that are made to the Booker T. Washington program affect actual people. It's not, not widgets, it's not, buildings, it's not equipment, it's actual people's lives that are being affected. Like Clifford said, 35, 40 kids a day during the school year receive services through Booker T. 80 a day in the summer receive services through Booker T. These are real services. These are tutoring. These are mentoring. No kid leaves Booker T. Washington hungry. And to a lot of us, we may not think that that's real important, but for some individuals, that's everything. When we look at the hierarchy of need, and I don't have time to go into basic psychology, if a kid's belly isn't full, they're not going to accomplish anything. Programs like Booker T, for every $1 invested in them, research shows we save between $15 and $20 later on down the road in other expenses, in treatment, in juvenile justice, in dropout rates. All of this is being served by this program. And beyond the kids that are being served, this is a jobs creation program. This money that is going to Booker T is paying, even though it may be minimal amounts, it's helping people put food on the table. It's giving them part-time employment, whether it's adults, whether it's kids. This is providing a safe opportunity for individuals to work, be around these kids, and it's giving parents a safe place for their kids to go after school so that they don't have to worry, they don't have to stress. They can take care of the other needs of their family, whether it's working late, whether it's, whatever it might be. They know that when their kids are at Booker T, they are safe, they are being educated, and they are being fed. That's huge. So I beg of you, look at the funding that you're giving, look at the priorities in the community, look at where you can make the biggest impact with the limited funds that you have. And look at what Booker T is doing and what they have done. Generation after generation has been served by this program. And I know I'm running out of time, so I'll just thank you for allowing me to speak to you today, and thank you for serving.
Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions?
Oh, I have one question, if I may, and I may have a misunderstanding, and maybe you can correct me. I was contacted following the CDBG committee process by a couple of the committee members about Booker T, and that part of the concern that the CDBG committee had raised about Booker T was the lack of statistics, that Booker T didn't have numbers about how many kids it was serving, about what program, that kind of raw data that we like to have. You threw out some numbers, Sean, and my impression was that part of the CBG committee's concern was that Booker T didn't have any numbers. So where do those numbers come from?
Absolutely, we do. First, let me say this. The United Way sends a committee around to each site, and we're able to produce that data to them. The funding committee has never come around to the sites to visit, nor have they asked for that data. We have data. We have a sign-in sheet. We have applications. They're on file right there now. So those numbers are proven. They're there. So I don't know where that information came from, but this is every year. That's standard procedure at Booker T. We have accountability for every number and everybody that comes to the door. I'll give you another number. The 4-year-old program that the school just put at Carver. They're in our building for 3 hours a day. 130 or 140 something 4-year-olds utilizing our gymnasium. So the numbers are there. Programs, utilization of other organizations or committees that come there, we have the numbers, the data. You need to see them, I can produce them.
Okay, thank you.
Follow up on that, Clifford. I can testify to that too, because I've been on the Budget Allocation Committee for United Way. I've been through their facility, and they have they've shown good numbers.
Okay.
And can I just say one more thing on data? Real quick, what they've got is they've got process measures. They know how many kids are there. We actually, and this is a long time ago when I did this, but we actually have measures that we did, it's similar to a youth risk behavior survey with the kids, that we've shown the outcomes. We've shown the decreases in potential to smoke, to use alcohol, to drop out of school. We have process measures also, or I'm sorry, outcome measures in addition to the process measures, so we know that the programs are making a difference statistically across the board.
And I'll just add one more thing to that. When you don't see things going on at Booker T, that's because our programmings are done. But because we get cut so much, we have to shut down to save money. So we take, upon request from the community and other groups who want to utilize the building, they get on calendar, and we're there to serve them. But when there's nothing going on, we will shut down. But I invite anyone to come over during operation hours, and you'll see the production and the clientele that we serve.
Clifford, I have done some research on this since we spoke on the phone a few weeks ago. One of the limitations with CDBG funding is it should go towards infrastructure needs. And Sean, you mentioned the programs, and believe me, I'm one of your biggest fans, so I want to connect the infrastructure need with what you're applying for, because the information we have in front of us is for the program itself. Last year was for your roof, and I don't know historically beyond that, but you're just looking to use these funds for program purposes. Is that correct?
Program purposes and administrative cost. Yes.
And I believe if it is for a program purpose, then there's a max that we can allocate based on available funding of 15%. And I don't actually have the math of what that would be, but there's a total allocation available of $162,000. Roughly, it would be $20,000 that we would be able to allocate towards a non-infrastructure need.
I understand that, but I believe, and that's true, but I believe 2013 we were allocated, I believe, $23,000 for that program, and I believe there were more agencies asking for money. And I'm just throwing that number out there, and I don't have that number in front of me, but I believe they awarded us $23,000. When we came for our proposal, we had two packets. We asked for public facility and we asked for public service. They asked us to, what was our priority? Of course, we had to get the roof fixed to provide services for the community, so the roof needed fixed. So we did without, in 20 13, this year we did without CDBG funding because we chose the public facility. So we went 1 year without any assistance from CDBG. And that really, when we don't have other monies coming in, that really put a, cufflink in our.
You're not giving money by anybody else?
Pardon me?
You're not giving money by anybody else?
Yes, we do. We get.
You just said you didn't.
No, they
No.
said they didn't.
He just said you don't receive any money from anybody else.
No. Oh, well, I'm
We're
sorry.
gonna take back.
Well, I'm sorry. That was a mistake. We funded by United Way, but that pays for other staff needs and facility needs. What we're asking for CDBG is after school, 175 school days. And I believe when I did the application, we included our summer program as well because it falls under public service. So.
Any other questions? Thank you, Clifford.
All right, thank you.
Next on the list is Sherry Ezell. Sherry?
Tough decisions. Thanks for making them.
Need your address?
Oh, I'm sorry, 1722 East Maple Avenue, Enid.
Great, thank you.
Really, I'm just here to answer any questions you might have. I know that CDBG funding has undergone cuts for a long time now. I remember when CDSA routinely received $200,000 a year for our emergency assistance programs, and so we've all experienced those cuts. I know money's very tight, but if you have questions about our project, I'd be glad to answer them. If not, thank you very much for your partnership.
Thank you. Next is Peggy Kaniga.
Hi, good evening. I need to state my address. 4120 Greenwood Place. I would just like to be considered the way the CDBG committee allocated the money. They're stating that $12,500 would go to Taft Elementary for a playground. We've put the playground in 22 years ago, and the big playground piece has broken parts, cracked pieces. It's not developmentally appropriate because 22 years ago we didn't have 4-year-olds and we didn't have all-day kindergarten. So there's a lot of young children that play on it up to 3 times a day if they take a morning recess and an afternoon recess and a lunch recess. So anyway, it gets used a lot by the school children and then community children on the weekends and the evenings. Our facilities are used for the YMCA and also the Boy Scouts. In fact, they're right now. So anyway, I would just like to be considered. We're a newcomer. We've never received CDBG funds, so I would like for you to consider us. Do you have any questions?
Questions? Right under you, there was, I think, a Mary, Karen, Kyle, and I can't read the last one. And they did not, they only signed up, but they didn't list their address or the item they wanted to speak on. Are any of those 4 individuals here?
Sorry, we stopped the wrong list.
Pardon me?
We stopped the wrong list.
Okay, fair enough. I take that as a no. Okay, thank you. Janelle Allen. Okay. Lori Laguerre.
Hi, I'm Lori Legier, 2018 Lantern Lane. I really don't have anything to say. I'm just a member of the funding committee, and I just signed up in case I needed to answer questions. But thank you anyway.
Fair enough. Last one is Craig Vance. Craig?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. My name's Craig Vance. I'm representing Northwest Oklahoma Disabled American Veterans. We're at 202 West Walnut, which is the former Santa Fe Railroad Depot, which is our project here tonight. And our request was not for our organization. We have offices in the building, but the whole project, and it's a big number, I'll grant you that, but it's city building. We're just trying to be good stewards because we happen to live there right now. And all this money that we've asked for is directly for the property itself, nothing to do with our organization. We're just, again, trying to be good stewards. My main issue of speaking tonight was, in my 30-plus years of budgeting process and prioritizing projects, I can't think of a single instance where I gave money to a lower-rated project and didn't give money to a higher-rated one. If you look at this, 6, 8, and 10 all got zeros, and 7, 9, and 11 got funded. If you drew the line at the bottom of number 7 or number 6 and nothing below there got funded, then I wouldn't have an argument. But why not fund the higher priority projects? That's one thing I don't understand about the committee recommendations. And while our project overall is a large number, as little as $5,000 would enable us to do a number of things in that facility, including remedying at least one, if not 3, of the ADA issues out of the court judgment that are outstanding, and allow us to repair 2 outside doors that are allowing water intrusion into the building. We thank the commission for putting a new roof on the building this past year, and the water has stopped coming in from the top, but it hasn't stopped coming in from the sides. And we all know, living in Oklahoma, water comes sideways sometimes. So with that, I ask you to reconsider the committee's recommendations, and I thank you.
Craig,
Yes, sir.
in response, if you don't mind, how are you, by the way?
I'm doing well, thank you.
On your infrastructure proposal, $313,000, if we fund $1 of that with CDBG funds, you have to complete that entire project this next calendar year.
That's not what I was told.
Is that not right?
We have to spend what we were allocated,
not
but
right.
we don't have to spend,
Just what?
because
just
look
what
at
they're
every one of those programs up there, none of them got everything except number 1. So,
Okay, I misunderstood that then. Yeah, you can phase it out. Okay, thank you. He just has to spend the money that was allocated.
Certain project.
That project, okay, got it.
any other questions? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Understand, is this okay to make comments? I have never understood the way that this gets figured out. I'm not on this allocation committee, clearly. It seems to me every single year it is horribly inequitable the way that it's distributed. It doesn't make any sense to me why some of these are funded at such a higher rate than others and some don't get anything, and it makes no sense to me. I understand that we don't have to give any of it to outside entities, but we do, and because we do, I feel like it should be more equitable than it is. I hate the way this is done. I don't ever understand it, and maybe it's just my lack of understanding of the system of it, but it seems horribly unequitable.
There's a set of criteria, and the criteria, I don't remember what all the criteria are. I'm sure
I know there are
you
rules
have
that they have to meet, but still, I think it could be a little more evenly
Sure.
divided.
Right, I mean, I think it is by its name, I mean, the program, the strings that are tied to the
Yep.
program, Tammy, require some level of complexity in how the allocations are done. There are different types of programs are given a higher priority by virtue of what they're doing. Housing being the first, is it housing the first and infrastructure? And I don't remember off the top of my head. I'm not on this committee either, but
Well, and I really don't understand why the school system, and I'm not bashing schools, but please don't get mad at me. I don't understand
There's
how
a lot
the
of them.
school system just passed a $100 million bond issue and they can't put a playground in at Taft. But they're asking the city to put in a playground when we did not pass a park bond. I mean, we can't put playgrounds in our own parks. So I don't understand that part. That is confusing to me. So that's just my feeling on that particular subject.
do you have like the short spiel on the
I mean,
criteria?
I know that there are criteria that they have to meet. I'm not completely naive
Homeless
about it, but it just
prevention
seems
is
very
number 1.
unequitable to me.
Wait a minute, start over, please.
Homeless prevention is number 1. Infrastructure is number 2. And everything else falls below that. Public facilities is above public services. There's a lot of caveats, per se, to
A lot.
if this, then that. And Commissioner Tim is on this board, so he can tell you how difficult it is to determine who gets what. We usually just take the top ranked ones. We go through with what we have after we pay administration and Section 108 costs, and then you fill in the gaps. People will say, well, let's give this entity funding. We've never funded them before. Or some people say, okay, well, one of these has excellent reporting and does above and beyond and has tons of leveraging funds. Leveraging funds comes in, you get higher points, better ranking, if you have more funds to go with what you're asking for.
Is a part of this, as I understood, is to help start programs and not run programs.
Yes.
So that's where it gets tricky also on every year given the same thing, because you started them, it's kind of more of a kickstart for different things.
Well, and I agree, and I've always been an advocate of trying to wean people away from some of this money every year. I understand that, but I don't, some of these I just don't, I don't understand.
Well, and actually, when we sat down the first meeting, we had more money to give than we did the second meeting. They cut us back even in meeting. And actually, we're all going to be weaned in about, what, 2 years?
Yes.
There won't be no more. So that's how close we are not even having this meeting anymore.
Stephanie, explain Section 108.
Section 108, in 1999, the city manager here can help me out with this. It was before my time here, but we partnered with the city and CDBG funds to have NOC come to Enid, open the campus here, because Phillips University closed their campus. To keep those jobs and those people in town for economic development, we decided to use, this is when we had $1 million pot. So $200,000 wasn't anything to put toward this annually. Now it's most of our allocation, so.
Yeah, and I would say, just to follow up on that, I think that was a wonderful investment at the time and continues to be as you see what it's become out there. Back in '99, the city teamed up with, I think it was the foundation, I think Central National Bank was involved, NOC was involved, and put up through CDBG $1.9 million, which is what this loan started out at back in 2000 or so when it was first agreed to. Every year, payments have been made. They're made twice a year. Once a year, the principal payment is made. I think it's down to around $700,000 or so now. It pays off in 2019. So 4 years from now, it will be paid off. And whatever CDBG allocations we get at that time, we won't be talking about Section 108 anymore at that time. Section 108 was always, part of the agreement was always planned to be repaid from CDBG funds, so that's been clear. For folks that have been involved in the program, they know that Section 108 always comes off the top and has since, I guess, 2000 or 2001, whenever the debt repayment started. It's unfortunate, but it's, that's a big chunk of it, but the good news is in 4 years it'll be paid off, and we have the university here now. If you could follow up on a couple other things that's probably not clear to the commissioners and maybe some of the folks in the audience. Well, the folks in the audience would know for sure, but this process didn't just start 2 weeks ago or even the funding committee. I mean, you started with getting an allocation back in October or something. You had to post, you had public hearings way back in December, right?
Yes, our first public hearing is in December. We start putting out notifications and getting the plan together in the summertime, and it carries on till now. This is the public hearing, and then next week you guys will approve the final plan, and that's basically the grant application to HUD. We send all of this information, all public comments, everything that we've done over this 9-month period to them to show them that we've done due diligence on spending their funding that they give the city.
A couple things that makes it look off sometimes, I think worse this year. Last year we had 2 structures we had to help build. A roof on one, and I don't remember what the other was, but you can't build a half a roof. So we had to give so much more to one at that time just to make the project work, and people got cut on that. Well, it kind of come back this year to, for a better word, even it out. We have 1.8 million asked for, and we have 400,000 to give. It's very hard to figure out.
That's down from last year, and
Actually went.
And all of these programs are excellent programs, and if I were a multimillionaire, I would give to every single one of them.
Yeah, also echo that. It's very hard to figure this out. I was kind of against the parks myself, Tammy, because I think the people can raise
Just about
money.
$99 million for schools.
No, but this, they were, just saying, me personally, I was against the parks too, but this is just how it, the committee came up with it.
Can you tell them, when the committee looks at these and you actually have a grading system going by the criteria, some of the criteria you just mentioned, where it's structure or it's brick and mortar or it's program or it's how much funding they have to go with what they're asking for and their ability to complete the project, and everybody's scored, and that's how they come out with the scoring that's over to the left, correct?
Yes.
Is that scoring on a slide or something that we could put up now? Because I think that would help.
No, it wouldn't.
It's on the side, it's the second column.
But it bothers me that if we're talking about giving a school that much money to put in a playground, but we're not putting a playground on city-owned property. Because to me, the CDBG money should go for city infrastructure before it goes to some of these other projects. And if you've got a school that had a $99 million bond issue that needs a playground, I understand the need for it, but I don't understand why that takes precedence over city property. That's why I don't understand the logic behind some of that. And I'm not trying to pick on the school. I'm just saying that one, I don't get that one. And I don't understand why some of the other ones were next in favor of that. That makes no sense to me.
Well, I think what Stephanie's saying is it met the criteria. Now, whether or not you guys
The
want.
other ones didn't?
Well, actually,
Did they not meet it?
actually, some of them didn't. When you look at DAV, it was rated the lowest, and that was a funding committee decision, the way I understand it.
And Sandbox Learning Center didn't meet the criteria?
It was very low on the priority list, and so it's a difficult. The funding committee has a.
They did or they didn't?
I also look at census data. There are more residents in that area for a public park, which is on school property, than there is over by the.
It's not.
Did they not also have some matching funds?
Yes, they have a lot of matching funds, which pulls their score up higher. Yes.
Stephanie, expand on what Rodney said, that this is going away in 2 years, 3 years?
I can't say that with certainty, but with the trend of budget cuts,
Federal budget.
yes, we've had over 40% budget cuts over the past 3 years. So we're just assuming that it will go away eventually, but we're hoping that we're wrong.
So, something that's important too to get out that you guys probably know, the funding committee makes their decisions the best way they can based on the criteria they get, based on the rankings that get summed up to what you see in the second column, and then they have to make a decision. That decision comes to you, but this body gets to make the final decision. So if you want to give money to the school system, or if you want to give money to Booker T, that is within your power to do, rearranging what you have. And I don't know, Lori, you were on the committee. I appreciate you coming tonight. Do you have any insight you'd like to share with the commission on how you had to make these hard choices as a citizen that puts yourself in the crosshairs?
I can tell you from the bottom of my heart, I hated that we are cut so much. Every single one of the programs deserves to be funded. They really do. And it is hard decisions when we come up with this structure. And I wish we had more money to give. I truly do.
I don't even think it's a matter of more money. I think it's a matter of dividing what you get more equitably is my whole point. I just think it's not. I think it's a weird.
Anything else?
Craig Vance wants to say something else.
Just a point of clarification. We submitted 2 projects, and one was a park. It was the lowest ranked one, got no argument with no funding for it. But our other project, the depot repairs, was ranked higher than 2 other programs that got money, and that was my argument. I just want to clarify that.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. As I sit here and hear that, I'm thinking depot repairs probably is very worthy, but I'm sitting here thinking the city owns that building, so the city probably should look at what you need, maybe from other funding sources. I don't know if that helps the mission here. You didn't get awarded any money through that, so I think we'll look to see what we can do. But within the whole budget, as everybody knows, we're limited too. So what you see in the CDBG funding pot is the same thing for the total budget. There's just a little more money and way more projects.
Be happy to talk to any of the commissioners as far as end-of-year monies that sweep up or next year's budget.
We
I'm
have,
sure that goes for everyone here tonight.
that is a very good problem to have.
I also understand that these dollars, the priority should be for municipal projects. Is that correct?
Stephanie, what does the guidelines say on that?
We're not required as a commission
To give any of it up.
to give any of it away.
Exactly.
So explain that to us as well, please.
The city of Enid is the entitlement for CDBG funding. We can do strictly infrastructure, do parks, public improvements. I think, I'm not sure what year, 2003, we had a full CDBG department, and we administered those funds ourselves. It turned into a one-man or two-man show. After that, we asked other entities to help us administer these funds because one person couldn't do all of the administration of it. CDSA was a big partner. They helped us with all of the things that we were doing, so that way the community wouldn't lose those benefits.
Especially during housing, in that respect. But we do have restrictions as to, or limitations to areas of town that we can place the money in.
It has to be 51% low to moderate income, and that's how a lot of these applications get scored as well, is, okay, you may be in an area that's 75% low moderate, and somebody else might be in one that's 52. You're gonna get more points if you're in the lower.
I have a real hard time understanding how Booker T. Washington is in a higher income bracket than Taft Elementary.
They're actually in the same census tract.
It's by census tract, not
Okay.
neighborhood.
Same census tract.
And it is strange. When I first started in CDBG, I was floored that how the census tract was set up, that I knew that people in Indian Hills weren't as low mod as people in this area here behind the city hall. It's just an obvious conclusion. But that's how the census data reads.
Dealing with the set of rules.
Can anyone on the committee enlighten us on Sandbox?
Commissioner Tim, do you?
I really don't remember. I think, I don't want to guess. I don't want to guess. Lori, you remember?
Do you have any feedback on Sandbox? Do you have any feedback on Sandbox, other than there wasn't enough money to allocate to everybody? Was there?
I want to say that once the funding committee got down the list, and then they can, do a little finagling there, the $5,000 that's in EPTA, that public transportation is a priority. So that was okay, let's give them $5,000. They may have ranked lower. I'm not sure. Sometimes people, and it's up to the person doing the ranking, what you give them. It gives you a little bit of room, and as you can see, there's a 1-point difference there. So, and the other, Sandbox, they're an awesome entity. They report well. It was just a matter of running out of funding once we got down that far.
Other questions?
I'd like to know how we as a commission are going to pay for Section 108 if this funding's going to run out in 2 years.
That's my point. A while ago, I didn't say it, but it's $160,000 for 2 years, probably.
What we would have to do is pay for it out of either sales taxes or utility fees or any other available revenue source, and that would reduce the amounts available for other things.
I think also on some of these, Stephanie kind of gave us information on which ones had other incomes coming in too. If they were getting other revenue, that maybe got them lower on our list at the time.
That makes sense.
Very difficult.
Tammy, do you have a suggestion on what makes sense here? I'm in agreement with you. And I kind of have some rub on the EPTA also.
Well, I mean, it makes more sense to me to fund EPTA because that's a city entity. I mean, that's part of the city. So, I
know.
mean, to me, that makes sense to fund that. My whole deal is, we argue about this every single year. So this will be my, fourth or fifth time now to argue about this. And I have the same argument every time.
Tammy, we have 4 more years to go,
I know.
too.
I'm gonna get to do it 8 times. I have always, I mean, in the past, I suggested, why don't we split it evenly amongst the people? I mean, I understand the ranking system, and I understand that some of them are lower than the others, but there's a big chunk there, right there. They're just a few points apart. They're not 200 points apart. They're a few points apart. They're 10 or 11 or 12 points apart. So I don't understand that. I mean, and maybe not completely evenly, maybe percentage-wise, this one gets this percentage, this one gets a little bit lower, this one gets a little bit lower. But these are vast differences. And I understand the whole criteria thing, and I get all that, but I don't believe that's the most equitable way to spend the money.
Okay, but disagreeing with criteria doesn't mean you don't get it. I mean, we didn't make up these criteria, did we? No, I mean, these are criteria that come from the funding source. So I understand that you disagree with the criteria every year, but you can't say you don't understand it. I mean, it's criteria that we are given to deal with.
I don't disagree with the criteria. You're missing what I'm saying. I understand, I've said this like 5 times. I understand they have criteria to meet. I understand that fully. But you can't tell me that every single one of those didn't, I mean, they either did or they didn't, or they wouldn't be getting money. So if they're getting money, they clearly met the criteria.
I think we had 3
So
or...
then the ones that are meeting the criteria, the ones, I mean, obviously you have to follow the rules. So the ones that are following the rules and the ones that are meeting the criteria, I feel like should be funded more equally than such huge
In the case of like last
money.
year, when Booker T needed the roof, and we gave, what was it, 70,000?
75, I believe.
If it had been divided evenly and they got 25, how would they finish? How would they be able to do the roof?
And also, I think we have at least 4 new clients that never, what even, first time. So we're actually had more to try to divide up than we've ever had.
And in the funding committee, it's a group of 5 people. They look at this for a month and a half, and then, have a meeting that is very painstaking because they want to fund everybody. And they want to do it equally, but then things like that Mr. Riley said that, what if Booker T does need that 80,000 one year to get the roof? Maybe the following year we can, give it to someone else. And this is just their thinking, and I'm repeating what they say in the meetings, but it's really difficult to do. And there's no perfect way of doing this. I know some cities take it all for themselves and give out maybe 3 awards at $5,000 each. And everybody, 100 people fight for those 3 awards. And that may be something we need to revamp this program and do it like that.
Well, it could be, Tammy, I mean, of course, we can make whatever decision we want. If you want to come back, and this is just the hearing night, and we're not making any decisions tonight, right? I mean, we're coming back at the next meeting for the actual decisions, but there could be a counter proposal where Taft gets nothing and Booker T gets everything they did. I mean, there are all kinds of options based on what, what the...
I don't want to take anything away from anybody. I just think that
Well, but if you're saying you think it should be different, you got to take something away.
Well, I'm not saying I don't want to cut them out. I just want it to be more equitable, is what I'm getting. I think there's a...
Well, that means we'll take something away from somebody.
It would take something away. It won't take it all away. I think everybody should get something, is what I'm saying, instead of just this crazy
accomplish anything.
amounts of money. Well, but here's the deal. Would you rather get $5,000 or would you rather get no dollars?
Actually, in some cases, 5,000 would be like, you could start the projects.
Well, to me, this is bonus money. I mean, we don't have to do this. So if they can't do something without this money, then they have bigger problems than this, frankly. And I don't mean to sound callous about that, but this is not money that they should depend on to live on every year. I mean, that's not money they should...
Exactly.
I mean, it's nice to have it, and it's helpful, and I'm sure they accomplish a lot of great things with it. But to me, there should be there's obviously got to be other sources of funding than just this. I mean, so...
great news is you guys get to make the decision, the hard decisions, that you get paid, I guess, nothing to.
Yeah, nothing.
Right,
Thank you.
yeah. Perfect. Anyway, moving.
Any other
on.
questions?
I'm done.
I thank the committee members for doing this, because this is probably.
This is a
What a
horrible.
lousy job.
This is a horrible
This is
decision
terrible.
to make every year.
So,
But you get to feel like Santa and Scrooge at the same time, so the Santa part's fun.
well, Santa when you have enough money, but Scrooge most of the time.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, in recent years at least.
So sorry we
Just like,
followed that episode.
just like after our first meeting, then we get an email from Stephanie saying,
By the way.
we lost another $10,000 or $15,000.
Sucks.
Is this a solid figure?
This is solid. This is the final number.
We hope.
Mr. Brownlee, I might just, I know what you said about EPTA. I just want to clarify that the EPTA doesn't go for operations of EPTA. It goes as passes for people, the people in low income who can't afford to buy the passes
Okay.
to be able to ride throughout the year. That does not go towards the operational funding of EPTA.
Okay, thank you. That makes more sense.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Item 2, conduct a hearing on an ordinance amending Title II, Chapter 6, Article B, Section 2-6B-16, to add impound lots, amending Title III, Chapter 10, Sections 3-10-1 through 3-10-8, to add definitions for impound lot and impounded vehicles, and to regulate impound lots in the same manner as salvage yards, amending Title 11, Chapter 8, Article B, Section 11-8B-4, to amend impound lots as a use by review, amending Title 11, Chapter 8, Article C, Section 11-8C-3, to add impound lots as a use by review. Andrea?
Mayor, Commissioners, this ordinance you reviewed a few weeks ago at a study session, and there have been no changes to it. But because it's a zoning ordinance, we have to do a public hearing, and I'd be glad to answer any questions that you may have still remaining about the ordinance or refresh your memory on it, because it has been several. The basic idea of the ordinance is that it would just treat impound lots like salvage yards.
Any questions? Thank
And
you.
I don't know if anybody's signed up or not.
We'll go to item 3. Conduct a hearing on a land use amendment for Lance, is it Wendell or Wendell? How do you pronounce the last name?
Wendell.
Wendell? Okay. For property located at the southwest corner of Oakwood and Purdue, described as a tract of land in the east half of the northeast quarter of Section 34, Township 23 North, Range 7 West of the Indian Meridian, from medium-intensity commercial designation to low-intensity residential designation. Chris?
Thank you, Mayor. In our current comprehensive plan, this particular corner at Oakwood and Purdue is a medium-intensity commercial node. The area that we're talking about is in the southwest corner, defined by the blue box. The petition in front of you today is to actually take that down to a low intensity and not develop it as commercial. If that's successful, then the applicant wants to continue building the residential homes in that area that he started in the Terra Estates addition. Are there any questions?
Is that
Where is it?
in reference to the houses that are already built, not the ones they're building?
Thank you. Right here is the original, very faint. It may show up better on your iPads. You can bring that presentation up in front of you. The original Terra Estate homes were right here. Wendell has come before this body and has been approved a final plat, and he is building along his western property line as he's extending the roadway, and actually will intersect with Purdue. And part of his preliminary plat that you have not seen, because those go to the Planning Commission, but when he's ready to do that phase, you will. He's got a road system here that turns and connects to this one. In his proposal, he's going to do a cul-de-sac in here, come back out. This is how he'll leave the subdivision. Does that help? It's a hearing. There may be others signed up to speak on the item. The infrastructure is in place in this slide. The site is defined by the yellow box. We have 12-inch water in Oakwood. The applicant is extending an 8-inch inside the subdivision, as well as an 8-inch sanitary sewer. The infrastructure is in place to support the land use change.
Is that the only parcel that needs to be changed?
Yes, sir.
For the entire addition?
Yes.
Why was that left out?
The person that owned this tract of land wanted to be able to develop this corner in their vision as commercial. And that's the reason it was never included in the rezoning of the property from agricultural to R2. So on the next hearing that we have, we'll talk about the zoning. And this piece currently is zoned agricultural. So it was the intent of the previous owner to develop commercially.
Just cleaning it up for residential houses?
I did not hear you.
You're cleaning up the location for residential? Any questions, comments? Thank you, Chris. Item 3, conduct a hearing on a land use amendment for Lance Swindle.
Item 4, Mayor.
We were going to do that again, weren't we? Let's go to 4, that's better. Conduct a hearing rezoning property for Lance Wendell located at the southwest corner of Oakwood and Purdue, described as a tract of land in the east half of the northeast quarter of Section 34, Township 23, Range 7 west of the Indian Meridian, from Agriculture District to R2 Residential Single Family District.
Thank you, Mayor, City Commission. This is the companion piece to the land use. If that's approved, then it follows that the agricultural in the yellow box would be rezoned to R2 Single Family.
Questions, comments? Item 5, conduct a hearing rezoning property for Greeks LLC located in the 5000 block of East O&K Garrett Road, described as a part of the east half of Section 11, Township 22 North, Range 6 west of the Indian Meridian, from I-1 Planned Industrial Park District to I-2 Light Industrial District.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a land use hearing, and when we look at land use changes, we want to make sure that we have the infrastructure near or in place to support the change in intensity of the land use. There is a limited access road off of 412, and it's shown right here in this area. And the water and sewer are both located available in the neighborhood in 54th Street. My next slide shows the current land use. It is I-1. The applicant is seeking to change it to I-2. And my map has not been updated, but if you recall, we did this for the Federal Express site. It's already there. My slide just isn't current, but we do have I-2 here as well. So most of this neighborhood is wanting to transition to that. The company that'll be using the site is in the oil field service equipment. I-2 is the right zoning for them.
Questions or comments? Thanks, Chris. Item 7 is community development. Item 7.1, consider a resolution to modify the land use map of the city, of Enid Metropolitan Area Comprehensive Plan 2025 for Lance Wendell for property located at the southwest corner of Oakwood and Purdue, described as a tract of land in the east half of the northeast quarter of Section 34, Township 23, Range 7 west of the Indian Meridian, from medium intensity commercial designation to low intensity residential designation.
Make a motion approved.
Motion by Rodney, second by Ron. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 6-0. Item 7.2, consider an ordinance to rezone property from Lance Wendell located at the southwest corner of Oakwood and Purdue, described as a tract of land in the east half of the northeast quarter of Section 34, Township 23, Range 7 west of the Indian Meridian, from Agriculture District to R2 Single Family Residential District.
Make a motion approved.
Motion by Rodney.
Second.
Second by Ron, further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 6-0. Item 7.3, considered an ordinance to rezone property for Greeks LLC located in the 5,000 block of East Owen K. Garrett Road, described as a part of the east half of Section 11, Township 22 North, Range 6 West of the Indian Meridian from I-1 Planned Industrial Park District to I-2 Light Industrial District.
Move to approve.
Motion by Ben,
Second.
second by Rodney. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 6-0. Moving to item 8, administration. 8.1, discuss the Call Lake Alternative Water Supply Development Program request for proposal presentations from the top 3 firms and authorize the negotiation of a contract with the best qualified firm. Project number W-1412. Chris.
Yes, thank you, sir. As you know, we've been visiting this topic for quite some time, and we seem to be having some technical issues. Here we go. Obviously, we're looking to present to you the final results, the RFP results that we just got through completing, walk through that, and then come to a decision and move on with negotiations. This is a common chart for us. We've seen it. We know where we're headed. We know why we're here. Once again, what we're out to get is professional services for phase 1 of this program. It's a 12-month program to acquire professional services. What we do is we request responses to a formal RFP, request for proposal. We evaluate those and determine which firm is the best qualified to meet our needs. Once we've determined that, we negotiate a price, bring a contract back for approval. The evaluation criteria hasn't changed. Phase 1 of the program, obviously, is to select the program management firm, establish the necessary program management processes and controls, begin the preliminary engineering, work on the environmental and the permitting. It's a 12-month program, as I said before. The important part is set the process and control to manage the rest of the program. The rest of the program is 5 to 6 additional years where we'll do detailed design, construction, and construction management, turn it on and make water run. This is one of the possible pipelines that we have seen in the Guernsey water study, and it's my recommendation to the council that we begin negotiations with Garber.
Actually, Chris, can we go back and get 4 more proposals solely written in crayon?
Absolutely,
Start over
if that's
again.
what you would
Just-
like.
Just want to see if you actually had a heart attack or just,
This is a big decision. It really is.
we know.
I'll make a motion that we select Garber as our engineer on this project.
Second?
A motion by Ron, a second by Ben. Further discussion?
We've had a lot of discussion.
And they were all great proposals.
Yes.
It was really a hard
And it was
one.
not,
Yeah.
it wasn't an easy decision. We talked a lot about the things we liked about everybody.
We had
sure
a
you guys did
challenge.
too.
We had a massive challenge sorting through these.
Yeah, this was one of those where some of the folks where we sat down and sit through 3 proposals, it's really clear walking out of the room. And it was a tough sell. I mean, it was just a tough call on all these. Everybody is super qualified.
And you all did a good job of scoring all of them, and that, everything's been hard, difficult.
Thank you, sir.
You're going to enter into negotiations with the selected company, and in the event you don't feel comfortable with the amount of money that's required to retain them, what's the next step?
I'll go to the number 2 firm.
Unless you can tell us who's number 2 now, and then we would know who to go to.
I think we have a hard enough time agreeing on
Yeah.
that.
Don't ask that.
Your buddy in the water, Bill. Any further discussion, comments? Would you read the motion, please?
The motion was to select Garber as the professional services firm.
And begin negotiation.
The motion was made by Ron, second by Ben. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 6-0. Item 8.2, approve change order number 1 with Luckinville, Inc., Enid, Oklahoma, to add $101,471.92 to the contract amount and accept Broadway Waterline Replacement Project number W-1409A.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager. I'm here to present the acceptance of the project, which does include a significant change order, but as you can see, this is the Broadway Waterline Relocation Project, and from the map we have here, it is from Washington Street to 3rd Street through Broadway, and that is in one of our most dense and congested areas, and any work in the downtown area in this area has its challenges, and certainly this project had those challenges. But we want to be successful with that project. We believe we have, even with the challenges that were met. But to be successful, there were some things we need to do. We need to meet the goal of the project, which was to move the water line outside of the pavement, get it out of the roadway surface to provide for our future overlay project and our resurfacing. And that's important because we didn't want to be in a position where we come back, resurface the road, and the first thing we do is we cut it to put a tap or a meter in there or make a repair. So it's very important, and we try to do that to move these water lines. So that was the goal. We also want to do it very safely. This is a congested area, a lot of traffic, a lot of pedestrian traffic. We want to do it within the budgets have allowed. We wanted to do it on time, and of course, the project had to work with the events that were going on in the downtown area, and we have substantial things going on through the event center and through the Main Street and through other activities. Again, I mentioned about moving the water line to gold, just move it out of the travel way and eliminate those cuts. I want to show you here where the existing water line, if you can see it on this map, the blue is the existing water line location on that section of Broadway, Washington to 3rd. It was in the pavement, of course. We have moved it to the park, out of the pavement to the parking area. It was impossible to move it into the sidewalks for a number of reasons, but we were able to move it certainly out of the driving surface into an area where it can be maintained and tapped without a substantial impact to the driving public or our street system. The other issue is safety. This system did require opening of 12-foot depth holes in a number of areas on Grand, 3rd, Independence, Washington, all those streets. We did that under the congested traffic and the pedestrian traffic, so able to do it without any accidents. And we also were able to do it with the events that were going on. There was a very successful Tour de Trikes event that went on during this project. I think was held very successful without any conflicts with our project, so we're proud of that. Budget numbers. Budget is an issue here. The budget for this was about $800,000. We knew it was a complicated project. We did have a bid. We did design it to try to alleviate some of that cost to come in under it. But we completed it for $781,331.92 within the budget. However, we are looking at a change order to cover some of the additional costs that we encumbered. We were able to, original design provide for boring these lines and placing them at about 5 to 6 foot depth. We ended up at 10 to 11 foot in depth, and I'll show you why here. This are some plans and profiles from the crossings. The red line shows where the water lines went in these intersections. The first one is actually 2nd and Grand, and then there's also 3rd and Grand. And what I want to show in the profiles down below is here's the road surface is shown by my arrow, and then plan to put the water line to bore them across at about 5 feet under the utilities. When we actually got to site and located the utilities, we found that they were actually weren't at these elevations that's anticipated in the plans, and we had to go lower in most all the borings. So we ended up at about 10 foot depth in those borings, which required additional road surface and rock work. Again, this is Washington and Broadway and Independence and Broadway. We also ran into some large boxes and traffic control facilities that required moving the pipes out a little further distance. We were able to accomplish all those tasks, including this is at Grand and Broadway as well. See, we had to lower that boring as well. We have some pictures here to show you, as a picture showing you the activities that went on. This one shows you, this is actually at the post office water meter, and you can see here the number, some of the utilities that were run into that we had to account for and work around the project. Again, this is at the Another shot of that same location, just showing the utilities. We actually had the borings were down at lower depths, so we had to bring the water lines up to a higher elevation so we could serve the facilities there and to provide for future extensions when we do the Grand and Independence lines. Photo of shop of the boring at the courthouse meter system. This again, you can see we're about 12-foot depth here. We anticipate to be about 6, so there's a little additional cost in making that system work. We did bore across here. This actually was put in and the pipes were brought up so that future connections can be made at a shallower depth, so we were able to accomplish that. This is the railroad boring at 3rd Street. On the railroad, we would accomplish that as well.
Does the railroad have any say-so in that?
Yes, it's one of the key issues in any project on the railroad is getting the permit to go under the railroad, and we try to start those early, as those take sometimes 6 months or so to get those done. And it requires certain encasements and protections. We do have a thicker wall water line under the railroads and heavier encasement. Ran some storm drain pipes as well we had to work around, and this one is at on East Broadway between Grand and 2nd. This is actually, I think, at Grand and Broadway, South Corner, and I'm going to show you, this is after the backfill when the water line was brought to the surface, so it's kind of when we had it open, did the water line boring, and we brought it up to the surface for a future connection. Change order quantities. I'm going to go over these here. We presented these are the change orders and the deducts that we're able to accomplish for this task on this project. And we're able to reduce some costs in some areas, particularly in the area of 12-inch and 8-inch tapping saddles and sleeves. We were able to move away from that, went to a more conventional cut and valve place requirements. We made some savings there, about $47,000. This is a change order for quantities of the increase that we dealt with on the project. Some of the more significant costs were the 12-inch gate valves we had to add back in, the fittings, again in here, the number of megalitic fittings we had to add in, and the gate valves. And the reason is because the depth of the line would bring it back to the surface, require a lot more pipe, a lot more fittings than before. Also, point out on fire hydrants, we added 2 fire hydrants on this project. We found 2 out there that were just not operable when we got to them. Didn't know that in advance, so we put those in place. We did have the significant cost down here is for the involvement in providing the additional aggregate, rock, time, materials, and equipment in completing the project because of the greater depth. And that's significant. So you take the savings and the additional costs, it's still about $101,000 change orders appears on the agenda. Construct contract time. The contract time for this project was, as shown here, 120 days. It actually took 128 days. We think that's really reasonable and appropriate for the additional depth and borings we had to put in place. Also, I want to point out that we had pulled the contractor off this project during the project to make a emergency sanitary sewer repair in that time frame. So we feel confident, although we couldn't quite hit the 120, we feel for the work involved that it was quite successful. Downtown events, again, we were able to provide for and accomplish the church tracks without any problems that I'm aware of. Whatever events were going on the event center and the other events downtowns, we had activities throughout the project, and I think they worked in well. So to end up, I think we did have a successful project, not as cost saving as much as we would anticipated, but successful. I think we met our goals. We got it moved. We got it moved within the budget, and it was we did a safe operation there. I think it was reasonably on time for the work that was expected, and it worked out well. We were able to work with all the events without upsetting downtown activity. Be happy to answer any questions.
Project has been completed.
Yes, project is complete.
I'll make a motion that we approve change order number 1.
Second.
Motion by Ron, second by Ben to approve the change order. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robert. Item 3, an ordinance amending the Enid Municipal Code 2014, Title II, Chapter 6, Article B, Section 2-6B-8, to rename the section increase the annual fee for drive-in restaurants and include new fees for mobile food vendor licenses, repealing Title III, Chapter 3, Sections 3-3-1 through 3-3-15, repealing Title III, Chapter 4, Sections 3-4-1 through 3-4-10, repealing Title III, Chapter 5, Sections 3-5-1 through 3-5-6, creating Title III, Chapter 3, Sections 3-3-1 through 3-3-16, to adopt portions of the state law and rules of the Oklahoma Department of Health governing food service establishments and require compliance with all applicable laws, rules, and regulations governing said establishments, provide definitions, require licenses for food service establishments and punishments for violations, require license to collect tax, provide terms of licenses, and require posting, provide sanitation and miscellaneous requirements, provide regulations for the storage, display, and serving of food and drink, and for the storage and handling of utensils and equipment, prohibit the use of poisonous substances to clean or polish utensils, provide for suspension or revocation of license and the process for reinstatement or appeal, and providing application procedures, eligibility, required information, conditions of issuance, and geographical and other restrictions. Amending Title III, Chapter 11, Sections 3-11-1 to remove the sale of food from the definition of solicitation and to allow schools and universities to fundraise without requiring a solicitor's certification of registration.
Do they have to be that
That's
long,
it.
Andrea?
That was shorter. I actually took out a lot.
I don't believe you.
I did, I really did. Mayor Commissioners, you also saw this ordinance several weeks ago. There have been just a couple of minor changes since that time. We did take out the health regulation portions of this because the county health department does the inspections. So we removed that. We also reduced the mobile food license fee for a one-day fee from, I think it was 20, I think in my original draft, and we reduced that to 10. So those are the changes from the original version.
So the short version of this, so the main change to this is the food truck part.
Yes.
Right? And the main gist of this is that the food trucks have to adhere to the county and the state health laws.
Yes.
And in order to operate a food truck in Enid, they have to prove that they have been inspected, they have to have insurance, and they have to pay a fee, whether it's a day, 6 months, or a year. Is that
Yes.
correct? So that's the short version?
That's the short version, yes.
And am I
They'll bring their
missing
licenses. It's an easy thing to do. They'll bring their license to the city clerk's office. They'll make application, they'll pay their fee, and they'll get their license.
So then if you have a special event that includes food trucks, they go ahead and pay their license, and then that's separate from the special event stuff, correct?
It is, it's separate, but they won't have to pay for, okay, it's a little bit confusing because we haven't dealt, or at least I haven't
done
been
the special
involved.
event part yet.
I haven't been involved in the special event part of it, but for this won't require duplicate licensing. At this point, they would still have to be on somebody's list so we know where they're going to be and when they're going to be there. But they won't have to pay for a second event license. They just need to be on a list so that, so the coordinator knows which parking
So
spot
if the
they're going in.
coordinator, if the
and then-
coordinator pays their special event permit fee, and they include food trucks on that, then the food truck doesn't have to buy another permit.
We just need them on the list. That way we can just verify that they do in fact have their license. That's it. So, fingers
Civil
crossed.
Discussion, not a controversial eruption, just a civil discussion.
I didn't feel threatened in any
I'm
way.
glad. Good, thank you. Good. Well, I would make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by,
And I'm not letting that go, by the way. Ever.
motion by,
Stupid.
motion by Tammy, second by Ben. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 6-0. Item 4, consider and approve an ordinance amending Title II, Chapter 6, Article B, Section 2-6B-16, entitled Salvage Yard License to add impound lots. Amending Title III, Chapter 10, Section 3-10-1 through 3-10-8 to add definitions for impound lot and impounded vehicles and to regulate impound lots in the same manner as salvage yards. Amending Title 11, Chapter 8, Article B, Section 11-8B-4 to add impound lots as a use by review. Amending Title 11, Chapter 8, Article C, Section 11-8C-3 to add impound lots as a use by review.
Mayor, Commissioners, this is the impound lot ordinance that we had a hearing on earlier. It will treat impound lots just like salvage yards. They'll be allowed in I-2 and I-3 zoning, so long as they meet all of the other requirements. There is a license fee that's required and a layout and walls and screening and things like
Move
that.
to approve.
Second?
Motion by Ben, a second by Ron. Further discussion? Please cast your vote.
Boxes.
Motion carries 6-0. Kind of feel like an auctioneer up here tonight. Item 5, consider and approve an ordinance amending the Enid Municipal Code 2014, Title II, Chapter 6, Article C, Section 2-6C-4, to increase certain fees at the Meadow Lake Municipal Golf Course. Andrea?
Mayor, Commissioners, you have seen this, I think, multiple times. You've heard about this multiple times. But this is our long-awaited increase in admission prices and fees at the golf course. It increases many of the green fees. It increases the cart rates. It also increases, in some ways, you can look at it that it increases membership fees. You can also say that it decreases membership fees because it gets rid of the surcharge membership fee and reduces the price of the unlimited membership fees. And all of those are.
And I have a couple of slides that'll show those. And Cody is here to answer any questions that the commission may have.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
There you go.
Motion by Ron, a second by Ben.
Put on a tie for nothing, Cody.
Further discussion?
Just one quick comment, Mayor. I do think that this needs to be approved. They've done a great job producing the financial data for some additional background, and Cody, I appreciate what you're doing. I'm looking forward to seeing how you're going to reduce some of your expenses as well. I'm hopeful that we can see that transfer reduce over the next couple of years. So.
Other comments or questions? We have a motion and a second. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 6-0. Item 8.6. Consider and approve an ordinance amending the Enid Municipal Code 2014, Title 7, Chapter 11, to allow and provide a procedure for requests for the installation of musical instruments on city sidewalks in the downtown area.
Move to approve.
Second?
I have a question.
It's a tie. Motion by Ben, second by Tammy.
No, second by Ron. I didn't second, but I just have a question.
Sound just alike.
Second by Ron. Further discussion or comments?
Yes, I just want to clarify a couple things. The only thing that was changed about this, which it was already the existing art and public places ordinance, correct?
It was, yes.
And then we just added in the part about the musical instruments.
I
and
added the
how that-
musical instruments. I renamed the commission because it was very confusing to go through here and call it the Visual Arts Commission, but be talking about musical instruments. So it's now going to be just named the Arts Commission.
Okay.
And so it changes that. It also, there is some clarification on Open Meetings Act procedure in here. There was a lot of duplication of procedure, and then there was just confusing language. And so I removed a lot of it, clarified a little bit of it, and we just go by state law.
Okay, and none of the funding process was changed or anything like that?
None of
right?
that was changed.
And then just to clarify, because it was brought up, this commission, the Visual Arts Commission, or the Arts Commission, whatever we're gonna call it, has the capability to, or the task to pick out different public art and decide maybe different locations and then different funding and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, the city commission still has the final discretion on the approval of those projects. Is that correct?
The city commission has the final say on the finances. I mean, I suppose if there were a horribly ugly project that were selected for placement at a city facility, then obviously the city commission can veto that. But in general, the Arts Commission does have
Final say?
That means they can put something in front of every store around town, and we wouldn't have any say.
Well, no, that's not true, because the city has the purse strings, and that's where you get the control. You know, if you don't want projects funded, then you don't fund projects. But if they are able to privately fundraise and fund projects in other ways, then you don't have any.
In the case of this tonight with the musical instruments, or
Completely privately fundraised. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And though, I know it's brought up that, that some of the commission feels like they need to have the final say about this, but this commission is the one that created that commission to do this. So you can't go back now and go, well, we didn't say that was okay, because yeah, you did. You created that commission to do that job, and you gave them that job to do. And we did that, we passed that ordinance that said that's how this works.
But the Arts Commission still has to come
But they
back
still
and
have to
ask
come
for
to the
money.
city commission.
So anytime there's a request for matching funds,
Needs to come to the city.
you turn it down by saying, sorry, we're not giving you money. I mean, that's how you control the.
I'm expecting and will include in the budget an amount that I think the commission's talked about for the commission to determine and vote on at budget time, which is only a few weeks away.
I think this is a great start. Do we have a motion and a second? Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 6-0. Item 9, consent items.
Move to approve.
Move to approve with the exception of the 9.8. Do you want to amend your motion, Tammy?
Sure.
I second Tammy's amended motion.
Yeah,
That makes sense, Linda?
Are we pulling item 8?
No, we're approving everything but 8.
Please cast your vote. Motion carries 6-0. Item 8, Board and Agricultural lease for property located at the City of Enid's Water Reclamation Facility to Jantz Farms, Enid, Oklahoma.
Move to
approve.
Second.
Motion by
Aaron.
Second by Ben. Further discussion? Please cast your vote.
Some reason why we did that.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay.
Item 10, we'll now recess to convene as the Enid Municipal Authority. All of us but David Van Hooser, trustees of the Enid Municipal Authority, are present. Item 12, the Enid Municipal Authority regular meeting is now in session. Item 12.1, approve and execute a water purchase contract between the Enid Municipal Authority and the Garber Municipal Authority.
Move to approve.
Motion by Ben,
Second.
second by Tammy. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 6-0. Item 12.2, approval of claims in the amount of $328,662.95.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ben, second by Tammy. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 6-0. We'll now adjourn to convene as the Enid Economic Development Authority. All the trustees, except for David Van Hooser, are present at the regular meeting. Item 15.1, the Enid Economic Development Authority regular meeting is now in session. Item 15.1, approval of claims in the amount of $52,381.45.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Tammy,
Second?
second by Ben. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 6-0. We'll now adjourn to reconvene as the Enid City Commission. Item 17, public discussion. There are none. Item 18, consider convening into executive session pursuant to 25, help me with OS,
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma statute.
Yeah.
307C10 to discuss economic development because public disclosure will violate the confidentiality of the business, and reconvene and take any necessary action.
So moved?
Second.
Motion by Ben, second by Rodney. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you for joining us for the Enid City Commission meeting. If you have any questions or comments, visit our website at enid.org.